Let's go. Game time. Everybody, welcome to the Better Baby Daddy podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, John Lashman.
I'm your other co-host, Kelly Burgess. We're going to keep that because that's right.
And today, B, we're going to talk about how there are men out there, and I'm looking at you, or maybe I'm not looking at you.
I'm looking at you.
All right. That use fatherhood as a means to heal themselves. So you're making your child responsible for the healing that you should be responsible for.
Yeah, and that on purpose. We were talking pre-show about we don't wake up saying, I'm gonna lay this responsibility of my healing on my 8-year-old kid. Fresh to the breakup between their mom and I. But by not doing the work we need to do, we unintentionally put that on the kids.
Absolutely. So our first line item here is your kids are not responsible for the pain you've experienced in life.
Yeah.
And we make our kids responsible for our pain through what actions? Through what words?
Yeah. And through sometimes explosive words and actions, and then sometimes distance and not taking proper action. So it's both ends of the spectrum. And in the best case scenario, what we want is our kids to progress through childhood through the normal emotional levels that they go through. But when we layer on a breakup and then us not handling it well as men post breakup, it really puts more on them than they could possibly handle.
Absolutely. And you make your child or your children responsible for your quote unquote trauma. I know that's a little overused in today's society, but your pain, your unhealed experiences in life, when you give them your cell phone and then they drop your cell phone and then it shatters, but you're the one that gave it to them without a case on cement.
Right.
And now you're yelling and screaming at them. Now your child has become responsible for some pain in your past that caused you to be explosive in this moment right here.
So those unhealed traumas show up in those type of things, right?
Yeah.
And so one thing that your kids shouldn't have to do is walk around you in eggshells, is right. It's already a tense situation with the breakup of a family. They're dealing with a lot more emotionally than they could probably even express to you. And now they got dad hyper aggressive, hyper angry, small things becoming huge things, or dad's emotionally distant and not there with me, nurturing me when I need that from him. And so it's important for us to do the work. You and I have done that work, and we're challenging you guys to do that work so that your kids aren't carrying that load.
I'm thinking of my own father, and I was like, was my father the explosive father? Absolutely not. He was the avoidant. There was no nurture.
My dad tried, and my brother and I talk about it. His birthday was a couple days ago, and so we reflected on some things about Pop. And the one thing he was a nice guy, right? There was never a time where I was like cowering, And but there's certainly times, and I wish he was a lot more. Hey man, this is what we gotta do, or hey man, I've been down this road before, and these are your options, and this I handle it. And I recommend you handle it this way, right? I wish you was move forward with that. But either way, like we were just talking about before the show, those guys came from a generation of men where that just was not the work you were tasked to do. They weren't reflective dads. They were like, you know what? I need to course correct here and clean up some mess in my son's life based on me. They just weren't those kind of cats. We're in a position where we have done that work and we can encourage other guys to do that work.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we've been in situations where we know men where, hey, the default response is something happens and the volume goes up in the house.
Yeah.
We're raising our voice, and that's the way we feel like, hey, we need to handle things. But it isn't.
And raising your voice is not a form of control. Like yelling and screaming is not you bringing everybody in and grabbing control of an environment. That's not what that is.
Feels good.
No, it's addictive, right?
Right.
So this is going to be almost odd to say in a sense.
Right.
You're exerting power, and the exertion of power, when people are complying with it, is addictive in a sense.
It is.
Right? You're like, yeah, I controlled that environment.
Right.
But what were the ramifications? What are the long-term effects of you consistently doing that to your children?
Right.
Putting them in a place where they're in terror
of
your actions, of your words, of what might happen to them.
Right. Yeah, because you haven't dealt with things. And it shows a lack of self-control.
Absolutely.
In our profession, we're constantly talking. We're constantly trying to manage different groups of people or individuals. And when you can't manage it, it's easy to have that default of, I'm just going to out yell you, right? I'm bigger than you, louder than you. I'm just going to yell. But you know that is a temporary solution. And when you reflect on it and say, hey, I can really just get what I need done just with a look, with standing near the kid. And it's it's much healthier for all of us. And it leads to, hey, there's a sense of we're in this thing together. And that's what you want with your kids is like, hey, man, we got this family situation that's kind of in chaos, or there's a lot more stress than if both me and your mom are in the house. And how can I regulate myself as the adult so that everybody is feeling safe and nurtured so we can grow together. And you can be a kid. And I think that's the first point we're trying to say is like, you can be a child and I can be an adult well.
Yes.
So that, the topic of the first point is like, hey, your kid is not responsible for being the adult that counsels you.
They're not your therapist.
Right. That's right. But it's easy to put them in that place when we don't do the work. That's the main thing we're trying to say.
At the end of the day, what you're doing is you're projecting your pain, your past experiences onto your children. And that is not what we want to do. And here's, I think, a very important part of this. We're not saying that there are not times when you need to raise your voice, when you need to be that stern, masculine present in the home. But it is, well, let me rewind a little bit. You need to make sure when you're showing up as that individual that it's not coming from a place where you are projecting past experiences onto your child.
And that's hard to do because our past makes us. But if when you were just saying that, the example I have is I had a parent who was really dominant vocally. It wasn't my dad, my mom was. And so there was definitely times when it was like, hey, I'm laying this down. But she was not able to walk it back and kind of clean it up afterwards. And so you may be, hey, I'm going to have to raise my voice here, but I'm also able to say, hey, later when it's calmer, hey, the reason why I did that was X, Y, and Z. You're in a dangerous situation. You can't see that. And so you're able to kind of package it where the kid understands that I'm not blasting you. I'm just asserting this authority, keep you safe. And hey, there's a healthy way to do it.
It's emotional regulation.
It is exactly what it is.
That's exactly, yeah. So am I able to control the intensity of the situation? Do I remain in control while I raise my voice? Or is it just this chaotic
It's a hurricane in that.
King Kong attacking the city type moment?
Yeah. And so what helps you with that is accountability yourself, right? You know, when I get angry, I've learned to manage myself. So when I have to get there, it's only going to go so far.
Yes.
And then if it goes past that point, I'm mature enough to go back to my kids and say, I was upset about this and I shouldn't have said that. So I apologize about that. I don't apologize about having to talk to you or it being an intense moment, but I apologize about that. And hey, next time, I won't do that. Or next time I'll try not to do that. That right there is an amazing interaction that you can have with your kid. And it puts in their mind that you can be angry and there's a healthy way to do it.
Yeah.
You can be angry and we're still tight. And so in that way, you're being a therapist to your kid of just how you handle a frustrating situation as a parent.
Yeah.
And it's how you walk it back if you make a mistake as a parent. And so the next time they can trust that you'll do that.
It's basically we're taking, a little 90s parenting and mixing it with a little 2020 parenting. That's what we doing.
Parenting. Like, I'm still the dad up here, right?
I still got a belt.
Don't make me come in there.
But I think the most important concept we should take from that part of the discussion is that your kids should respect you, respect your authority, respect your masculinity, respect you as a father, but not be terrified.
No, they should definitely have a healthy, I say fear, but it's really, it's a reverence mixed with, I don't want to disappoint you. And I know he's the heavy in the house.
And still understanding these are the moral values that we put in place for our...
Right. This is our standard. But to wrap up that first point, it's not your kid's job to teach you how to do that.
No.
Their job is to progress through infancy to toddler to young kid to adolescent to young adult as healthily as they can. And you're a major part of that if you do the work.
If you're
willing to do the work. And that's all this is about is understand whose role is what. And then we're challenging you to do that inner work so you can be the kind of dad that helps them to proceed through childhood smoothly.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. That brings us to our next point, and that fatherhood isn't the substitute for the self-work that you have to do, right? And it's directly connected with what we just talked about, but it's not a substitute. Like, I don't think there's anybody out there that consciously I'm like, I'm going to be a dad so I can get myself together. And if you, man, did you go about that the wrong way?
It could be a vehicle to grow you up.
Yeah.
But you don't, you don't wake up saying, I'm immature in this area, so let me produce another human being so I can grow up.
That's not it.
But, and then fatherhood, the things of fatherhood are not I think the point you're trying to make is that they're not the therapy. There's a separate basket of things you have to do, especially if you're not in the house with their mom.
Wow. Yeah.
It might be 3 baskets of things you got to do aside from just your normal, hey, I got to take them to school. Hey, they got to be fed. Hey, there's bedtime stories. Hey, doctor's appointments. That's stuff of fatherhood that you got to do anyway. To do it well, hey man, this is other stuff that you got to address. And so just simply throwing yourself into the duties of fatherhood is not necessarily going to just clean these other past mistakes or trauma up.
Yeah. If we jump a little further forward with that, let's say your kids are, I don't know, any age really.
Pick an age.
Yeah, let's 7, 14, 15, and you're talking with your buddies. You're like, yo, my house is so chaotic. My kids are crazy. Guess whose fault that is?
It's your kids, bro.
That's your fault. That's your inability to deal with the stress in the home.
Yeah.
It's your inability to deal positively with the stress that kids naturally are going to bring to your life.
That's it. I mean, to be a parent is to be able to deal with a lot of unknowns. And the thing that makes it challenging, and I laugh because you just think about just how much comes across your plate as a parent. And then when you remove that other half, either because they just could tolerate you anymore, you just did stuff that just blew the thing up. And now it's really just you while you got your kids. It's a tall order, but it's chaotic because you don't have the emotional regulation to handle the variations that come up with parenting. And so we're here to try to, press that forward with you, but it's not your kids' fault that they're being kids. Sometimes in our profession, it's like, we got to remind ourselves, oh, they're 12, 13-year-old kids. They're supposed to be foolish. It's just in them. And so how are we going to handle that? And so your kids are going to be just doing what kids do.
And if they're 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, in that range, like they're a little more advanced, and you don't like their behaviors and their actions, you need to reflect and see why they're behaving the way they are and why they're doing the things they're doing.
Yeah, you do.
Because it's most likely a result, number one, of your lack of parenting, what you've shown them, so it's a lack of parenting, right? It's a lack of proactiveness in your parenting when they were younger, and then what you're consistently showing them.
Yeah, and then the other thing we've said in previous episodes is the breakup brings out things in kids that would not be there had you not broken up. And what I know for sure is that many men do not investigate what are some things that can come up as a result of the breakup. You're seeing the things and you're reacting to the things, but you're not proactively saying, hey, because of the breakup, my 4-year-old may demonstrate this. So let me be ready for that. What am I going to do when he has an outburst at school and curses his teacher out because he doesn't have any other way of getting rid of this frustration that's caused by circumstance? So so it's all those things. It's complicated. It's not simply something you didn't do as a parent.
Yeah.
It might be one shade of it, but it's also, you got this other set of variables with this human being that you might not even delved into. And you're seeing that as like, I don't really know what to do with that. I've never seen that before. That never happened when me and your mom were together. Of course not. Because you and your mom were together. You and your mom were together. Now it's a different thing. And so you got to be able to handle that.
Absolutely. Here's the other side of that coin, right? You hear, and we're going to keep it men specific. You hear men say, oh, my house is chaos. My kids are a little crazy. That's your fault, your responsibility. You handle that. You get it together. That's how I feel. End of story. I don't care what else anyone has to say about that. Like, you're the leader. Do your thing. Then you hear the other side of that coin, and that is, well, my kids are the only thing keeping me going. Or my kids are the only thing that hold everything together. Stop that, because you're placing an immense responsibility on your children. And that is a responsibility as a child they should never have. They can be the driving.
Right.
Okay.
Because I would say, I can see where a person could say that. Because your kids are, man, the motivation for why you got to do what you got to do. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe that's a way to frame it, but it easily could bleed into like, you don't know where you end and your parenting begins. Right. Like, it's like you're all wrapped up in that. Right. Because kids are going to be gone. You're going to raise them, and they can't be the thing holding you together. They're going to be the thing that motivates you, but they can't be the thing holding you together.
Absolutely not.
You get into some tricky emotional business when the kids begin to feel like, and I've had some of my kids say that about how they felt about their mom. Hey, I had to hold it together, Dad, as a 10-year-old because I was concerned about Mom. I was concerned about my siblings.
Mhm.
And it's like,
That's really heavy for a child.
very.
And they feel that way.
Yes, they.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
your kids should be the driving force, if you're a committed parent,
Mhm.
behind a lot of the things that you do. They
Right.
should be, but they can't be the glue to everything in your life.
Right.
They can't, like, oh, let me sprinkle some kids over here. Let me sprinkle some kids over here. Let me sprinkle. That cannot occur
Right.
because now you're placing this immense burden
Yep.
on their shoulders that they're honestly
Right.
not capable of carrying.
Right.
They may do their best, but they're not capable of that. And
Nope.
if you're putting them in that position, you're going to destroy them mentally and emotionally by the time they become adults.
Yep. Yeah. You'll stunt them, because they'll be so used to almost like being like an emotional caregiver to you
Mm-hmm.
until you kind of show that you've made it,
Mm.
right? But it retards their ability to go through those normal cycles as a child. And they end up being a 25 or 30 or 40-year-old that's essentially a 13-year-old in some areas.
Mm-hmm.
And so, so don't put that on your kids.
And another thing is that we men,
And it's the other end of it.
and we do this and we hide behind the fact that, oh, I'm a provider, I'm a protector. So I'm not going to do the emotional work that's required for myself and my child as well, because I'm a provider, I'm a protector. I hide behind this veil of masculinity.
But it's easy to throw, we were talking about this before the show. It's easy to throw yourself into those things because those are normal things.
Yeah.
And
they're a requirement of us as well.
And they're a double requirement when you slice half the income out of a house. I mean, you got to provide, you got to protect, right? But it's easy to, like you said, hide behind those because you get a lot of strokes for that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then it is a necessary thing. But you also have to do this other basket of stuff in order to be the kind of healed father that your child needs when you're in a baby daddy situation. We're saying, hey, we're not saying don't work. We're not saying don't pick up extra gigs because we've said that in previous shows.
Yeah.
We're saying that's not all you have to do.
It's not all you should be doing.
Right.
It's not a substitute for prayer, journaling, mental, emotional work. It's
Right.
not a substitute for those things.
Right.
And you can't allow it to be a substitute because
Right.
then you begin to hide behind it.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
oh, I don't have time to do this.
No, you got
I have to
to
do this.
Yeah.
You have to make time.
You do.
And if you're not, then your kids are going to feel the pain and the consequences of you not doing it.
Yeah.
It's very simple.
It is. And that moves on to the third point is that healing, that work you have to do outside of work, outside of, providing protection for your kids, helps you regulate the emotional temperature in the house because you're getting more and more healed. I don't know if you ever arrive. I mean, because we're human beings and you should be constantly growing.
Mm-hmm.
Your children, when they're young, what they need from you is different than when they're 25 and 30. And so you're being stretched still as a parent when they're 25, 30, 40. And so that healing, if you're doing it, it just regulates the emotional temperature in the house. You ever walked into some situations, maybe a friend's house, or, you got a buddy who's married and you step in their house and you can sense there's like a little sizzle in the house. Like there's some static here. And then you ever in that situation, it's tight, little one word responses and body language. It's just something is off. And, as opposed to you go in a house and it's just, everybody's relaxed.
Yeah.
No guards up. There's no jabs being thrown. It's chill. It's like, it's joyful.
Yeah.
Right. And so as a man, you regulate that.
Yeah.
Are my kids' defenses down when they're around me?
Mm.
Are they like, yo, I don't really know how Pop's going to roll with this?
I can remember walking into Buddy's house. It's like, that's so funny you say that. And before we go in the house, my buddy's giving me a rundown of what to do and what not to do. Like, all right, don't do this, don't do that, don't look him dead in the eyes. Like what are we doing here? Like, I don't even know if I want to come in no more.
Dad goes in the kitchen. If he goes in the kitchen and gets a can of soup off the top of the shelf, it's like, let's head outside.
You're only allowed 4 steps to get to the couch. What is going on here?
Yeah, but, we joke about it, but, families have that dynamic.
No, for real.
They have that dynamic where it's just people are on edge.
Yes.
And as the man, you are the chief de-escalator in the house. You're the chief heat absorber in the house. And it doesn't mean that you don't confront difficult things or we don't have tough conversations.
Yeah.
But the general temperature in the house isn't like one of danger. Like kids don't do well in that.
That's landmines and eggshells everywhere.
Everywhere. So what happened, what helps of that is your healing. What helps with that is your healing.
Yeah.
That's my main.
So you are the standard at the end of the day.
You are.
So you're going to set the standard for protection, for providing, for healing
Mhm.
for doing the right things in those chaotic situations. And I truly and honestly believe that as a man, when there's chaos around you, you need to be in control.
Yeah, you need to be calmer,
Yeah.
and so you can manage it.
Yeah.
And you gotta manage yourself so you can manage the circumstances around you.
Because at the end of the day, and this is going to bring us directly to our fourth point here, is that what you don't transform, you transfer.
Yeah. That
I
is
say that
so
one again.
powerful.
Let me
Yeah.
say that one again.
Yeah.
What you do not transform, you're going to transfer.
And the neat thing is, like we said before, is that you might have come from, and you guys might have been in a situation where you came from, your dad or whoever is the dominant caregiver in your life came from a generation where that kind of intentional work was not a priority. People was locked in on survival, or they just had a way of handling stress in life and transitions that wasn't the healthiest way. And so you might be the first one in your whole lineage that says, man, this thing stops with me. I'm going to clumsily make my way through it, but we're not going to repeat these patterns,
Yes.
period. And it's tricky because you're living with the results of the pattern. You might have caused the pattern, right? And you're saying, hey, beyond me, we're not going to have this pattern anymore. That's the situation I'm in with my kids. Like, hey, there's the things that, man, you trace it back 3-4 generations of Burgess, man, it's like, this is what we did. We was out there rascally, right? But I mean,
It's genetic.
but your kids think, man, it's just this part of us. It is and it isn't. It is in that, that's our history, but it's not like we can't do something about it. But we have to bring it out into the open so it can be transformed. And so I had a really interesting conversation with my kids recently about how do you live with the impacts of the negative stuff that's been done, affair or drug abuse or whatever that caused the breakup? How do you deal with the present day effects of that? Hey, I'm not in the house with you. I don't have all these interactions with you, and still do the healing with your kids. I was talking with one of my sons. I said, listen, you have to constantly tell yourself that you're going to be a certain type of husband and father, even when you're not in that role yet, even when you might have had mistakes. Today, hey, I'm a faithful husband and a devoted dad. That's my role. That's my identity. And you have to say that to yourself before you step into that. And that's part of the transformation. I remember telling them a story, L, about, if you live in the same area, sometimes you're driving and it's like a little, it's like a little ways of all your shenanigans. Like I remember, I drive over here, like, oh yeah, that's the hotel I was at with Shorty, that's why, that's this is where we got something. You're reminded constantly of the bad mistakes that you made.
Yes.
And then you have to, in that moment, say, but now I'm this kind of man. Now I'm a shepherd of my family. And now I promote, fidelity in these different things. I've got that thing under control. And so, but that's part of the transformation that has to take place. Otherwise, just by default, it is going to come down in that next generation and probably on that. So
At the end of the day, you're either breaking the cycle or you're just putting some lipstick on a pig, right?
Yeah.
That's what you're doing. You're just renaming it essentially, right? And because we don't want to say, oh, I did the same mistakes that my father made and I'm making them now. Oh, well, mine's a little different, right? That's what we end up doing.
Yeah.
So you have to put your foot down. You do. This is where it's changing. This is where it's stopping.
Yeah.
I'm altering the course of history essentially.
Yeah. And you have to, and when we talk about the stuff that, we're talking about fixing stuff, you have to name it to your kids that, hey, I'm going to counseling. Hey, I got this accountability group. So they begin to hear the strategies. They know you're parenting because you take it to ball games and birthday parties, stuff like that. But you need to also be explicit about these are the things I'm doing as a man to make sure I'm the kind of dad I need to be. And so that you are equipped with things that I wasn't equipped with. So you don't repeat some of the stuff. You're a better dad and husband.
Do you think that you relaying that message to your sons has positively impacted them to the point where like, all right, I'm comfortable now. Like you're comfortable now with where they are headed? I know that's a heavy question.
It's a heavy question, and it is not a clean answer
Mhm.
because they still are, they're still more free agents. They're still their own individuals. They still have their own stuff they got to battle with. But I do know this, and there's a verse in the Bible says, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. Now, he may, veer off from it, but there's something about when you've intentionally taught your kids something, and this is the exact example that child I was talking to the other day, said that teaching that you get from your parents is like a tether. It's like a rubber band. And you can stretch that joint out, right? Like you can get out there, like if mom and dad said do X, Y, and Z, you're like, nah, I'm gonna do A, B, and C, bold, italics, in Spanish. I'm out here. But that tether is like,
Yeah.
it's something constantly bringing you back. And recently had a situation with one of the children where it's like he was pulling the rubber band. And he said, Dad, he said, I know you and mom are praying. And I was going someplace in my car, and it was like somebody was sitting in that front seat with me saying, dude, what are you doing? You can make a U-turn right now. I just go, what do you mean you can't go back home? Thanks a bit. Of course you can go back home. And he said it was that teaching that you and mom had that just brought me back. And if we had not had those kind of explicit, son, this is what I did, this is how I try to fix it, you've seen it, who knows what might have happened. So to answer your question, yeah, it's helped, but they also got to live, they got to walk their own road.
I think my goal as a father is to make sure that my children don't have to unlearn my habits and behaviors that were negative in my life. That right there is a heavy one.
It is.
Because at the end of the day, your children almost always will forgive you.
Yeah.
Right. Depending on the variables at play here.
If you handle it right.
Right. They'll forgive you, but I don't want them to have to unlearn because of me.
Right. Yeah. And I think some of it's unavoidable because
we're human.
Because we're human, and there's going to be holes because you're not there all the time.
Right.
And there are going to be things that they miss. You just hope it's not wholesale. I'm going to go completely contrary to what we've established as the floor in our family.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And you hope it's not that, but sometimes it is that.
I don't want them to have to do that unlearning through their own self-discovery. I want to be there to walk them through that. And I think you do a beautiful job at that. You're like, hey, I made these mistakes as a man, as a father, as a husband, as a partner, whatever it may be. Let's walk through this together. I don't want you to navigate this field by yourself.
And for you guys out there that are in that situation, and maybe you have older kids and your kids are a little bit younger than mine, right? Or quite a bit younger than mine. The fact that you're even sitting here and getting a little bit of, this is something I need to think about as a dad. Man, you guys are on the road. We're pressing it to you. We're challenging you. But we're saying that, hey, these are things that are going to be on your plate later that you might not even be thinking about. But, man, do the work now. And then your kids don't have to unlearn those things. Or have to learn the lesson in the same way.
Absolutely.
And that's a favor. But breaking those cycles I think that's a main responsibility that you have as a dad if there's a breakup in the family. Like whatever caused the breakup, your job is to investigate that, do the inner work, and then equip your kids to not let it continue to roll down. And it takes intentional work, a lot of research as to what's going to work for your situation and your kids, but it is a thing you have to give time to.
And you can't hide behind, oh, I'm busy. I got 2 jobs. I got this going. Like, you have to do the work because you chose to be a father, whether it was intentional or accidental. You chose that path. So now do the necessary work.
Yeah. And you're going to be doing the work at some point either way. Like if you don't do the work, you think doing the work is a lot of work, don't do the work and see how much work it is. And so we talked about, in one of our earlier episodes, if you don't do the work, say with your daughters after the breakup, you don't, are honest about the mistakes you made and are honest about, resetting with her expectations for a man, go ahead and don't not do that work and see what she brings home. You'll be doing some work then.
That healing process that you're going to go through, that work you're going to do, is going to make you a better leader.
Oh, no.
And I know both of us are very strong proponents of the fact that men should be leaders.
Yeah.
They should be leaders of their homes. They should be leaders of their families, whatever that dynamic is. But that healing is going to make you a better leader, not a weaker man. That process is not weak. It is not soft. It is very uncomfortable and it's very difficult.
Yeah.
It's a muscle that you most likely don't train that often.
Correct. Yeah.
So you got to put in the work.
And we're coming out of kind of an era where it was viewed, at least I know in the African-American community, you weren't leading with, I'm in therapy. You weren't leading with, I made a mistake because I was stepping out. As a matter of fact, you get kudos for getting a lot of cheeks, right? And so you're countercultural sometimes with your demographic. But, as you said, John, that work is the work. And I love the analogy you made. It's like you might be, if you're the first one in your family to really kind of cut that path, you are literally working a different, familial muscle. And it takes time, but you got to put the reps in and it does make you stronger. It not only makes you stronger for you and your kids, I guarantee you, you're going to have a situation where you're going to be talking to a lot of other men who are in that same situation. You're going to be spotting them when they're on the bench.
Yeah.
And saying, hey, man, you can listen, press that thing out. Get back into your house. Say this to your lady. Do this with your kids. You're going to be in there coaching other men who are in a similar situation.
And what you project as a parent is not just for your kids, but you're essentially raising your grandchildren as well. That part right there. So the healing, the work that you need to do is generational.
It is.
Absolutely 100%. You have to confront the uncomfortable to do it. If you're not confronting the uncomfortable, well, you're not doing it.
Yeah. And that's when you know you're in the spot where you need to be. When you'd rather not do that thing, that's exactly the thing you need to be. It could be a conversation. It could be setting up that initial counseling. It could be really being honest with somebody in your accountability circle about, yeah, man, I said I wasn't going to use pornography as my go-to to handle stress.
Yeah.
Oh, and man, I was just binge watching. I ain't going to work. And so I'm coming to you to let you in on that situation. So the next time I'm gonna call you when I'm feeling that way. It's all those things you don't want to do. Cause man, we could easily hide. And that's generally the first symptom. It's like when a dude is ghost, like, he's going through a thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, you texting him, you don't get no response back. Like, you're like, I gotta come out and do a welfare check on you, though. I gotta stop by your job. Like, generally that's our go-to. We withdraw and medicate. But if you are willing to say, nah, I'm going to press into that thing that I've never seen any men in my family do before, I'm going to be the one to do that. You in a good spot.
Your children should not have to recover from you. You should not be the reason they're in therapy. There's plenty of reasons to be in therapy, but it should not be because dad was explosive, because dad couldn't emotionally regulate, because dad created a tense, landmine-filled house.
Yeah, it shouldn't be. And ideally, they're not. But most likely, if you are the result of the breakup, they're going to be in therapy because of you. And you should encourage them to get in therapy because of you.
But you should also have those conversations with them when they reach the age where it's appropriate to have those conversations.
Yes. And you might be part of their therapy as opposed to what we said in our first point. They're the therapy for you. Your healing is therapeutic for your children. It shows them this is how you walk it back from challenging situations. So I love that last point, man, about the healing makes us better leaders. I love that fourth point about, hey, what you don't transform, you're going to transfer. It's just right in the wheelhouse. So we just encourage you guys we're challenging you to not just be satisfied with doing what you got to do as a father. That's table stakes. But to do that other basket of work you got to do to become a better father.
I think we should sum this up. There's a lot in this episode. If we could come, and this is just off the top of the head, but like 3 main takeaways from today, what would be one for you?
Number 4.
Okay.
Is we know you're dealing with a lot because you got a situation where your family's broken down, but transform it before you transfer it.
Okay.
So that's the first thing is I would say do one thing that's gonna lead to your healing. Make that phone call to a counselor, get a prayer partner, start journaling, start that process. That'd be my one thing.
I think my one thing is that your kids are not your therapist. Your kids are not responsible for your inability to emotionally regulate yourself. So don't give that to them. Don't place that weight on them.
Yeah. That's real good, man. Real good.
And I think the one overarching thing is, at the end of the day, as Mike Tomlin likes to say, the standard is the standard.
Standard is the standard.
And you are the standard when it comes to family.
Yeah. You are.
What you do is going to set the stage for what everyone else does.
Very good. Good reminder. So, Jazz, get out there. Man, we're behind you. Hit us up in the comments like you do with all those other little trashy things you look at. We know you. We've been you. We all hey, we had some moments. But no, continue to join with us on this journey as we all try to become better baby daddies, And I want to end it with this. I saw Deion Sanders talk about how he said he wasn't a baby daddy. And I understand what he was saying. He said he was a father, even though he wasn't with his kids, right?
Oh, that
he was always, hey, I mean, you got to respect the man's game. He got his boy in the NFL from Colorado, from Jackson State.
Respect that.
Yeah, respect that. But when we say, hey, that moniker, better baby daddy, is because, in our first episode, we said we know there's a negative connotation to it. and we're just dudes trying to level up.
Yeah.
So we encourage you guys to get out there and get that work in.
Do the work.
Yes,
Get
sir.
uncomfortable.
Yep. Standards is standard.
Standard. All right.
All
Until
right,
next
man.
time.
Yes, sir.
I'm John.
I'm Ken.
Peace.
Peace.